So, are you wondering what an autistic kid does in the summertime alone at home when their parents are working? Um, what the old school latchkey kid would do to keep themselves occupied? Okay, okay, some of the things I did during my time was I learned how to catch lizards by spraying. Someone told me you can catch them easy because their tails kept coming off, and I didn't want them biting me. So someone said, yeah, just put the hose sprayer on fine mist spray and give them a spray down. They'll just freeze right in place, and you can come and pick them up and put them in your container. They won't even move, and you won't lose their tails anymore. I thought that's a great idea. I don't want to lose their tails anymore because it just made me feel so bad. And I wouldn't keep them if they lost their tail. I feel like I have no right. I have no right anyway. Um, so caught lizards and took good care of them, but they were better off free. Um, One time in Huntington Beach, California, I was 7 years old. My dad was in the Coast Guard. He wasn't home. My mom was being a single parent while he was off doing his own thing in the Coast Guard. And he came home for his brief visits because he'd be gone for a couple years at a time. And he felt like a stranger, like a neighbor or something because I hardly knew him anymore. And I went into the shed, wandered. That's what autistic kids do when they go out the door. They wander. They don't know what they're gonna do. They're looking for something to do, but they don't know quite what. I mean, it's a big, wide, wonderful world, and plenty of things can come our way. So, hey, there's a shed. Wonder what's in the shed. Let me go in. Ooh, it's really cool in here. It's got that clear, rippled plastic siding and on the roof, and the light is coming in, and it's all kind of like yellowy in here. And there's these planks, uh, empty paint cans with like 8x1s or 8x2s or something laid over them in uh, stepped shelves style. And lo and behold, there's stuff to get into. What's this? It's a can. Let me open it. What's in there? Ooh, it's shiny on top. What is that? That's not paint. Let me find a stick. Oh, this is a good stick. Yeah. And let me stick it in there and see what this stuff is. Poke the stick in there and lift it up, and it's drizzling. So I'm lifting it up and it's drizzling, and poke it in, lift it up, it's drizzling, and I start swirling the drizzle on the inside of the can back into the stuff. Wow, what is this stuff? It's pretty cool. It's like golden, looks like honey. Okay, oops, I just made a mistake. I got some on the pavement. Boy, that sure does look neat. Look how it just kind of looped into that neat little leafy shaped design. Let me see if I could do that again. Ooh, yeah, do that again. Ooh, yeah. Oh, this reminds me of my toy, what was that thing called? Oh, I know the name of it. I just can't think of it right this second. It's those little plastic gears with the holes in them, and you take and stick one gear inside the other gear with your pen in the hole, and you draw these really neat designs. I had so many days of fun with my thing and my designs and my different colored pens. This thing was just reminds me of that, and so I started making those designs, like oval designs that kept graduating around and around and around until it was this really pretty mandala kind of almost looking thing. And just having a ball. I don't know how long I was in there. I lost track of time. I am time blind, so 10 minutes, it feels like 10 minutes, but it's probably more like an hour. It usually always is an hour when it feels like 10 minutes. But, yeah, and then suddenly I just got like scared. Look what a mess I made. Oh my gosh, there's nothing to clean it with. There's not a thing in here I can clean it with. I can't use my jacket. My mom will be so mad I got my jacket all dirty. I can't sneak back in the house because she'll ask me what I'm getting paper towel for. She'll see me, she'll tell me to stay in. I'm afraid. I want to try to clean it up. I can't. There's nothing to clean it with. Then my friend is telling me, your mom's calling you. Everybody wants to know where you're at. They're looking for you. And I don't want them to see me coming out of the shed. So I sneak out of the shed, shut the door just the way I found it. And I come out, answer my mom. And she's like, what have you been doing? Where were you? We were looking for you. We couldn't find you anywhere. Oh, I was just outside. And I didn't want to tell her I was in the shed. I was trying to divert the question, like avoid the question, get around it somehow. She's usually a Mack truck. My mother would like roll you down and into the cement kind of with her questioning, and she'd get the answers out of you. She used to say, come hell or high water. So, but I managed to squeak by it on this one, and just racked with fear for the next couple of days. And sure enough, my dad comes in back from his, like home from his job, and he's telling my mom, like, there's all this oil drizzled all over the shed, so they're questioning me, knowing I'd been absent that one period of time, untrackable. So I lied. I was so afraid of getting the beating I would normally get if I did something like that. I was just so afraid. And I lied. I knew lying could get me a worse beating, but the terror, I felt like what I did was so bad. And the secrecy that I had been keeping for the couple of days was just mounting on me. And every time I would think about it, I would think about what a bad beating I was going to get. And I lied and told him I didn't know anything, and I just kept telling him I don't know who did that, and there were other kids in the neighborhood, and do you know anybody who, do you know if it was any of the kids that, no, I don't know, I wouldn't pin it on anybody, and finally they were convinced that it wasn't me, and I didn't get the beating, but the guilt was just, that's how it is with autistic kids. We just can't live with our guilty conscience. It was worse than getting a beating. So I didn't want to lie about things, but I was impulsive was the problem. It wasn't that I was a disobedient kid. It was that I was impulsive. I would just get on track with something, lose lose track of time and be so immersed in what I was doing, not aware at all of the world around me completely. This is autistic. I'm telling you how your autistic kid is thinking and what's going on in their head. I mean, listen to me. There is no other world at those moments. They're just immersed in what they're doing so deeply. The rest of the world goes away. It doesn't matter if it's a walk, if it's something we're doing, like drizzling oil all over the shed floor, or looking for snails on the back fence. Like, it's just, we're so immersed, and we're when we're called back to earth in that weird sort of a way, we are so immersed in the world that we have to live in and deal with. You know, we become flooded with anxiety of what will be done to us, or uh, what the consequences, and so probably a lot of times you're right about your child having done something, but the sensory overload to a beating is so extremely bad that it's completely out of the question to deal with it. And there is no good solution for us to a consequence. Lying is just as bad as telling the truth. But so that's one thing I did. I was a climber. Oh my gosh. I was a climber. I climbed a pine tree one time. You know how, like a tall pine tree. I went way up there, and pine trees can tip over easily because their roots go wide, not deep. But the branches are also softer and they can break. And I was like way up there to the top as I could get. The only reason I wanted to come down was because I got sap in the back of my hair, and I didn't know it was sap. It was pulling my hair and pulling my skin to such an extremely painful degree. I thought I was stung by a bee. I was sure, absolutely sure I was stung by a bee. Screaming, crawling down, trying not to lose my grip and fall, like, because I was in a panic. I was excellent climbing up and down, but not when I feel like a bee sting in the back of my neck. And I'm trying to get down safely, quickly, without bending or hurting moving my neck, because every little movement was like I got stung again. I was sure I had a bee in my hair, and got down, and I'm screaming. The kids are telling my parents in advance, and my mom's coming running out, and she's looking at me, and she's like, "You got sap in your hair." That's all it was. They didn't know how to get sap out of my hair. I think my dad used turpentine. Unfortunately, when I got tar on the back, on the sleeve of my white coat from leaning on it, I had climbed up it. I'd climbed up the telephone pole and climbed down. I wasn't allowed to do it, but I did. I got, up to the top. I didn't want to touch the wires because I was keenly aware of injury and death, and believed and trusted my adult parents about pain, death, and dying. That I didn't want to touch the wires because I'd already asked my dad about wires, and if I asked him about anything, he told me in full about the subject because he too was autistic. So they didn't use turpentine to get, or at least maybe they tried. I know they tried to clean the coat. They took it into the into my dad's area where he kept those types of things, and I never actually saw what they were using. But it didn't come clean, and I had to suffer having a big black marred look on the sleeve of my white coat till I outgrew it, and they always gave me like 2 sizes bigger. So it took me about 3-4 years to outgrow the coat. Okay, so I climbed the street sign too. I was pretty small. I could got hurt if I fell, but I learned to climb. I climbed doorways. My dad actually encouraged me to climb doorways. So I learned to climb, my feet on one side of the jamb and my hands on the other side, and spider my way up there and hang out until I felt like I should come down before I get too tired. So that led to climbing on top of the door itself and swinging myself. Oh, that was fun. Swinging myself back and forth so often, so many times, until the doors began to creak, and as I grew, the hinges were starting to come loose from the door, and it was discovered that I was doing this. Got caught in the act a few times, even after being told not to anymore, and told, oh, now we know that's what's happening and why the doors keep getting dirty, and the marks on the walls from the doorknob where I missed stopping myself. So at about 4th grade, I was climbing a 2-story building, and my apartment complex. I'd go up initially up the pole of the awning that covered the parking area, and after scathing that and skittering across the aluminum awning, I climbed up the aluminum rain drain, the little skinny, flimsy rain drain, and went up the 2nd level and get on top of the flat tar papered roof. It was that kind of tar paper that has the grit in it, and looked at all the things that people had thrown up there on the roof. Like just balls, shoes, lots of sticks and lots of rocks. And I found kind of like a raggedy doll. I always told myself when I do this story, I'm gonna show a picture, because I actually spend hours and hours collecting pictures of the toys I had as a child, and found that kind of doll. But I took a dowel rod that my mom had laying around and stuck it up the behind of the doll to make a puppet out of it. But so I had to climb down with the doll and all my other little trinkets, throwing them down, picking them up as I scathed downward and got back to ground level, and then got the stick and had to go back up there. I don't know why, I just wanted to revisit, reminisce about my exploration and doll finding. Brought the doll with me on the stick and saw in the building across from me my reflection in their window, and someone was laughing in that window that I was up there with the doll. So I began, being my clowny self and was hanging the doll down in front of the windows of my building, upside down, because I only had it by the stick that was in its behind. And it's upside down, and I'm jerking it up and down like a puppet, through each and every window, trying to see, can anybody, find me funny like that person across in the other building did, and entertaining them as well. And after they disappeared, I kind of wasn't finding anybody in my building to make laugh either, so I went back home with the doll on the stick, and he stayed on the stick, and I glued him on the stick, and pretty soon, he was permanently stuck to the stick. Yeah, he was just another one of those things I let stay in the closet, my messy closet. Oh, there was another one I had, climbing the trees. Yeah, climbing. Oh, there was another one I've missed. Anyway, I'll have to catch you up on that one in another video. I was a wandering kid, like that's what autistic kids do. So I brought my mom to like literally having panic attacks when I would just disappear. And I would hide in the circular clothing rack. Partly, sometimes she would know I was in there. Once I got permission to be in there, she'd have to remember which one I was in. And I would just stay in there because it was so cool to be in this little space. I was all about little spaces. That I actually started driving my mom like to these panic attacks, okay? Which she had her own personality of dealing with things. And her being autistic as well added another component to the mix. So if I like disappeared into my closet, her remedy thereafter, instead of always beating me, was to pin the closet door shut and then call me to come out, and I would be trapped in there. Like, it was her reverse psychology method of getting me to not disappear on her and panic her, because I was autistic. We lived near the woods, and I had so many times been caught too close to these woods where we had pack dogs that would like shred a child, and were in the news regularly for doing damage to children. And so and we were right in that vicinity, right where these news reports were coming from. It was the whole stretch of Long Island in that spot. I'm no longer in California anymore, by the way. But anyway, so she would, I like to go in there and do my light bright. That's how that's how I would get darkness, because even with the shades closed, it wasn't dark enough to enjoy it fully. And when I was quiet, I was the quiet kid. I didn't talk, I didn't make sounds. My mom couldn't handle sounds, so on top of being a quiet kid, I was trained to be ultra, ultra quiet. And let me tell you what quiet meant. Quiet meant when you chew with your mouth closed, you do not even make a sound. If you chew ice with your mouth closed, you do not make any sounds. She was so sound sensitive. So she'd pin me in there, call me, and I couldn't get out. So I panic. I would panic. And that would be her way of her conveying to me not to cause her to panic. My mom was like demonstrative. She did the same thing with the toy box. I'd empty my toy box out, go in it. She would come in the room, see all my toys everywhere, and have no clue that I was in the closet or in the toy box. She'd check the closet, and I'd be just silently listening to her call me and do these things, and I wouldn't answer. And so when she discovered where I'd been, first time I got a beating, second time, because she was in mode, the second time and thereafter, she would sit on top of it and I would not be able to come out. I loved going under the bed and would be repeatedly told not to hide under the couch, under the bed, under the couch cushions. When I went under the couch cushions, my mom and dad thought it was funny to both sit on me. I couldn't breathe and they couldn't hear me say I couldn't breathe. So that put a screeching halt, my mom's favorite word, to that activity. And so just like disappearing made my mom make rules like I could not be farther than earshot. She had to be able to call me, and if I did not answer to her call, which was sometimes difficult when I immersed myself deeply and my brother did the same thing. He was autistic too. They said he had selective hearing. He was able to turn his eardrums off, which wasn't the truth. It was just that he was autistic and immersed. So even if you're yelling while he's watching the TV, I watched my mother and I would yell, and even when he was 9 years old, he couldn't hear us several times, and finally he would hear us and be startled. It also has like something to do with like autistic dissociation. You're just, I guess just what you could call it, because you're so deep in your world. My kids had yelled at me, and they kept saying, "Mom, why couldn't you hear us? We were yelling and you didn't answer." I was washing the dishes. No, I never heard you call me. But she made us have to be, Mom made us have to be within earshot, and if we were not within earshot, it justified getting the beating. So that was those were some interesting memories, experiences. I mean, like I can tell you, photographic memory thing, I can tell you what she was wearing on any particular given day of any event. Might want to look forward to future video. I'd originally done a really long, like 2-hour video, and then realized nobody wants to hear all this for 2 hours. They aren't gonna, even if they wanted to hear and they had to get on with something else, they wouldn't know where they left off. So I'm trying to do shorter, like isolated videos about these experiences, rather than the whole length. But I have photographic memories of like infancy. And if you see the picture on my Gibber over Java cover to this video, how old I was there, I think I had bottom teeth, maybe top teeth. I can't see the picture right now, but or gums. Gums. I was much younger than this picture, much younger. And I'll tell you in detail in those videos how much younger I was, where I have photographic memories. So, and I'll even talk about this picture, this little series, and may try to include some more of me standing on my toes and flapping my hands and squealing while my little champagne colored toy poodle, miniature, the smallest version poodle was just exhilarate me with her cuteness. But yeah, that's a few of the little experiences for now, and I will include some more in other videos, so catch me there.